After the Battle of Gettysburg, the South would be defeated there, and it would start heading back down south. But the war would still continue for about another year and a half. This is the Battle of Cold Harbor. No, the battlefield of Cold Harbor. It was a battle that even Grant would put down as one of his major regrets of the war was fighting here. So, if you'd like to join me, we'll be wandering around this battlefield here today and show you why Grant regretted fighting on this battlefield. I'm Blockhead, and this is Scars of History. Now, this little rut here, it really may not look like much, but this is an old Union trench that they used when fighting the Confederates here at Cold Harbor. Now, I know when you think trench warfare, really, you think of World War I, mustard gas, artillery shells. But there was quite a bit of trench warfare during the Civil War, and this battle is a great representation of it. As they were pinned down here in this trench, not a whole lot to look at now, but it's been sitting here for well over 100 years, just wasting away by time. And those saved a lot of Union lives, just this little trench here. Now over here to this side of me, I'm not sure which way it looks on the camera, but this is more Union earthworks. As you can see, just kind of looks like rolling hills. But in total at this battle, there was 170,000 people. 62,000 Confederates, and 107,000 Union forces. I'm just doing so great right now. But that's enough people to fill up the entirety of the Kentucky Derby, which is, if you ask me, one hell of a day at the horse track, but that's beside the point. These earthworks here would be used by those 107,000 Union troops as they were trying to advance towards Richmond and defeat the Confederate lines. Now, as we wander through these woods here, you might be wondering, why would he fight a battle here? Well, there was a very important crossroads that's just kind of back that way. That would be very important to getting Union supplies down towards Richmond for, well, a siege of the Confederate capital. So this was seen as a very strategic spot to take. And I'm probably going to butcher this quote, but as they say, the amateurs study battle plans, the great generals study logistics. Armies march on their stomachs, and they need food and supplies to keep going. And so if the Union was able to capture Cold Harbor, they'd have a straight shot into Richmond with a great road network to get supplies back to them. And frankly, all of this wood you see around me right now, it's probably all grown after the war. You can imagine at the time, all of this was more leveled out, even farmland, as they needed it at the time to, well, survive. But even right here, right behind me here, probably hard to see on camera, but there's more Union earthworks right here, right behind me. Now right here is quite an interesting spot, as we were actually over top of a trench that was used by both the Confederates and the Union Army. As you can see, it just goes around here. These earthworks were built by the Confederacy, were overtaken by the Union, and then back by the Confederacy, causing this section of earthworks here to see both sides of the battle upon it. Now, right here on June 1st, 1864, the Union forces would make their first real attack into Cold Harbor. Now, this was a bit of a change from how they were used to fighting, as the Confederates were well trenched in. The days of open battle were pretty much over for the rest of the war, and these trenches would start to take hold. As you can see right here is the 2nd Connecticut Volunteer Heavy Cavalry, I'm just an idiot, artillery. Now, they had to ditch their artillery to swap to become riflemen for this battle, as there wasn't a whole lot of use for all the artillery they had out here. So a lot of these men that are on this plaque right here died in this battle, assigned to artillery, but forced to be riflemen in this battle here. Oh, this really might not look like a whole lot now, but this is another one of the old Union earthworks here. As you can see, this nice tall trench wall allowed them to peer out at Confederates that would be some distance over that way. I'm not quite sure from this location, and frankly, there's too much tree cover here now for me to be able to tell where the Confederate line was. But this is pretty much kind of why I'm making this video. Is these earthworks were dug, left here after the war. Someone probably came back and lived here for quite a while before this was preserved as a battleground. But these trenches are still here. This is a scar of the battle left behind. Yeah, eventually it will erode away, go back to being kind of flat, but this is the real reason why I'm here. Just to show off that though this battle happened well over 100 years ago, there's still things like these mounds here to remind you that the battle happened here and the cost of the human life that was settled during the Civil War. What you see around me now is kind of the equivalent of the rear line for the Union Army. I'll show you some B-roll footage around this area, but this is where the Union troops were really kind of camping at. Now, the Confederate artillery didn't have any mortars with them to shoot over and into this area, so they had actually kind of buried some conventional cannons into the ground to lob artillery into this rear line of the Union forces here, which is just kind of fascinating to think about. Well, at least if you ask me, but I don't know, I don't live your life. Now, on this field you see behind me here, on June 3rd was where some of the bloodiest parts of this battle happened. Now, can't go over there. It is private property and looks to be still a functioning farm to this day. But some Massachusetts troops reported that that field looked like it was boiling like a cauldron from the amount of rounds that were popping into the dirt over there. Gives you a good feeling on how intense the fighting was here as the Union were coming from where you are looking now down to Confederate lines way over there. Behind me here is some of the old Confederate battle lines. As you can probably see the way it kind of waves like, well, the ocean. These are some old Confederate entrenchments that would lead up to there. And the Union fortifications would have been about 200 yards over that direction. And as I was trying to say before the wind carelessly interrupted me by blowing down my camera, these are Confederate entrenchments. Union trenches are about 200 yards that way. And from here, this was really kind of a last stand point for the Confederacy defending Richmond. That's why this battle was so important for them. As if the Union had taken this area, they would have easy access to Richmond and would probably have ended the war a lot sooner. So even though they had been defeated at Gettysburg and were kind of in retreat mode, they were making a stand here because their capital is just about 10 miles over that way. This was a very important battle for them. And these trenches that lie here really are just a reminder of the fact how close this battle really was to the capital of the Confederacy. So right here we got a nice helpful sign that can show you how these trenches would have looked a bit more when they were, well, actually in use. And if you come around here, you can come look over and see the layout and the fields before them. Now, after the main fighting on June 3rd was over, the Confederates would kind of advance into this area here and would dig out some smaller trenches for sharpshooters to try and take out more Union lines. Now, these sharpshooters were heavily feared by the Union because of their accuracy and helped deal with the heavy amounts of Union casualties during this battle. Now, right here is a very well-preserved old Union rifle pit. That's only about 50 yards away from the Confederate front line over that way. In pits like these, it was said that they would sometimes break out into singing, and the Confederate lines would be singing Dixie, and this would piss off the Union soldiers, so they would sing back Yankee Doodle, and so on and so forth throughout the nights during the battle. But this is a very close spot to the Confederate lines, within range of those sharpshooters that would be over there. So it's just fascinating seeing how close these lines actually got in some points. From right here, this was part of the main Confederate line here, overseeing the field, which is just down that way. Once again, there's more tree cover than there was when the battle took place. But this helped repulse the Union attack on June 3rd, as they could fire from these positions with relative ease and comfort that they wouldn't get hit back. Oh, hey, it's a hawk. Sorry about that. I got distracted there. But yeah, this is old Confederate line overseeing the battlefield. Yeah, I don't know really what to add about that here. So I should probably just cut all this out. Am I going to? Who knows? And from here, right behind me, is once again the Confederate trench line. And you can see some of the field down there from where the main part of the battle really kind of took place. Now, Grant really regretted fighting in this battle and the aftermath of the war because of the number of casualties he took here, which ranged about 12,000 men, at how inefficient they were in this attack. This would have been a very strategic stronghold for them, but the Confederates here were too well dug in to defend their capital city, which is part of the reason that allowed the war to go on another year past, well, this battle happening. I'd really like to thank you for watching this video and leave some comments. Let me know what you thought, anything I can improve. And I'm hoping I can do more videos like this, touring other battle sites around Virginia and around the US. But thanks for watching. Have a nice day.